Hey, yo, there's trouble in New York. The MLS Supporters Shield chase is heating up, and NFL quarterbacks are eyeing an expansion to their soccer footprint. That and more on Monday's Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kickaround, your dip into the world's game being played right here in the United States of America. I'm local soccer guy Robert Kerr. To my side is radio soccer guy Jason Davis. It's been an exciting weekend and we got an exciting Monday show ahead. How you feeling, sir?
I'm good. First of all, dot the map. I just want to say that, like, as a greeting for all of our ultras, all the people watching the show this morning, dot the map. That's what we want to do. Excited for today's episode. I think we've got some very intriguing things going on, both kind of like on the field. Like, I want to talk about stuff on the field, but obviously, like, behind the scenes, the money that is moving around in American soccer and maybe where it's not moving, Rob.
Yeah, that's definitely a good juxtaposition there. We will get to all that. Before we get to the content, like, subscribe, become a member, do all those things. We want to take a moment to give a shout out to our brand new members that hopped on in the last few days. You really are the gas in the tank here at Morning Kickaround. Shout out Matt Rice, Pablo the Zolo, Josh Nolan, Jacob Olenek, Jason Hoover, Bo Durr, Chris Cordell. Thank you so much, guys. You are, you're the fuel in the tank.
I didn't realize Bo Durr became a member of the Ultras. Shout out to Bo Durr. Bo Durr is a very accomplished American soccer writer. Go look for Bo Durr's work, please. Yeah, I have a couple books of his over here somewhere in my collection.
Yeah, shout out to Bo and all those, and you can join just a couple bucks a month, and you get all sorts of perks. And just click the button right under there to get involved. All that said, I'm ready to rock. Let's kick those long balls here on Monday's Morning Kickaround. All right, getting things rolling on September 29th. I'm Robert. He's Jason. Tons of great action across the leagues in the United States this year, but we're starting, or this weekend rather, but we're going to start it all off with a little bit of unpleasantness, a big shouting match, not between opponents, but between a player and his own fans. New York Red Bulls lost the Hudson River Derby 2-3 against NYCFC, and Raheem Edwards, player for New York Red Bulls, could not be consoled. The video on screen shows the beginning of an extended period of time where the New York Red Bulls fan clearly perturbed by some voices coming from his own supporters.
Yeah, the player in this case, obviously. So let's be clear here, because I've seen a couple of comments already in our chat from people who know a little bit about the dynamics of what goes on in New York. And we're not playing the audio here. It is intense. There are some
beeping needed. A lot of beeping needed for this one.
It's Jersey. You can't have a conversation without at least 3 or 4 F-bombs. It's not really Jersey if you don't have F-bombs. So Raheem Edwards, excuse me. Got my wrong Raheem's mixed up. Clearly this is not that other one. Raheem Edwards upset with the treatment he received from his own fans. These are, for lack of a better word, the ultras of the New York Red Bulls. This is the end of the state in the South Ward where the supporters groups are based. I don't want to say that that's an excuse. And obviously, I think there are allegations, and we think we have any corroboration on this, Rob, that people use slurs towards Raheem Edwards. I think
in the day and times that we live in, that's not a far stretch of the imagination to think that could happen. But I mean, we don't want to jump to the conclusion.
We don't know, right? It's also important to note that this is not all Red Bull fans, right? Like, not all Red Bull fans are screaming things at Raheem Edwards. Now, in the beginning of this video, the audio that we're not playing, somebody says, "This is the one you can't lose." There are other curse words thrown at Raheem Edwards. the Red Bulls lost this game, the Hudson River Derby, to their Cross River rivals, and so passion was high. The vibes were bad. There's a very good chance now, based on the fact that the Fire beat Columbus this weekend, that the Red Bulls are going to miss the playoffs for the first time in basically forever. So, I don't want, again, I don't want to excuse bad behavior, but I think it's pretty clear that there was something said that was not appropriate, right? There was why would Raheem Edwards, a guy who is a professional soccer player and has probably dealt with fans unhappy with his performance before. I don't know how online he is. If he's online, he probably sees stuff all the time. Why would he react this way unless it went beyond the normal stuff? That's my question.
Yeah, because usually, I mean, you often see some words exchanged at the end of games, passionate fans, passionate players, all that stuff. But this is a really extended exchange. This isn't just like a couple words like F you, buddy, F you, this and that, and then walk away. Like, how many people on the Red Bull staff had to get in the way there? And I'm not sure we cut away there. Did he actually hop the advertising boarding?
I believe we got to the end and he walked away. So there was
walked away. So that's good. I'm glad he didn't hop the boards there. But if you look at the table, obviously this was at the end of the Hudson River Derby. And, this gets contentious between New York Red Bulls fans and NYCFC fans. And then with the New York Red Bulls are on the outside looking into the playoffs. So you have the angst of underperforming through the season, the angst of being on the outside looking in, and then losing to your inner city rival. That could have all bubbled up, and who knows what the actual words are that made the player really react like that. Or maybe it was the culmination of a whole season of a group of fans. It could be a lot of things, but clearly something got under this professional. That was a good point. He's been a pro for 8-10 years. This is not a new thing. This isn't a rookie getting, his first abuse hurled at him, I'm sure, but definitely notable here.
Yeah, and I'll finish out with a comment about the organization of the Red Bulls, right? They famously have never won an MLS Cup, either as the Metro Stars or the Red Bulls. There was obviously investment. They built the stadium. They got that place built. It is one of the jewels of American soccer stadiums. I mean, it is a little bit older than a lot of places now because we've had a rush of soccer stadium building, but people will tell you it's a wonderful place. They can never fill it up. Even when the Red Bulls are good and competing for things, they don't fill it up. There's something missing. There's a gap between what that team is or what it should be and the response and the support that it gets in New York. Now, I'm not a New Yorker, but I've talked about this a lot. It certainly feels like that team was relegated to Jersey status by people on the other side of the river. And that might even be a problem for people in Jersey who typically are attached to teams that play in New York, right? If the NFL teams play in Jersey, but call themselves New York, right? So there's a lot of psychology here in terms of sports fandom. And now with NYCFC under construction, getting ready to build their stadium and get it launched at Willets Point, you wonder about what the future of the Red Bulls is in terms of being a popular team people want to support in that area. Things like this don't help. Now, Jurgen Klopp is the doctor of global football for Red Bull these days. He visited the Red Bulls facilities very recently. There's a story from just 2 days ago over at ESPN where Jurgen Klopp praised the quality of MLS, said the league will continue to grow. He was visiting in the New York Red Bulls. He's talking about this team. He obviously wants to see them do better on the field if he cares about the results. So maybe there's something coming that will push the Red Bulls to a different level if Jurgen Klopp, who Pamit says was at the game, if Jurgen Klopp sees he can bring something from the Red Bull Global organization to the table here, because there's always this sense that the New York Red Bulls are second or third or fourth in the pecking order of the Red Bull Global conglomerate. And I don't like multi-club ownership to begin with, but if you're going to have it, you certainly want your parent organization to treat you seriously.
At least higher on the food chain. If, like you said, are they second, third, fourth, or fifth string there? And just frustration, not only this year, but for years past, maybe playing a part in that confrontation. Moving on to long ball number 2 here on September 29th. Staying in the same league, Major League Soccer, the Supporters Shield run-in is definitely getting hot. Philadelphia Union, after their victory, kind of has their fate in their own hands, but hot on their heels are a few teams, and Inter Miami could get within one if they win out. So not a lot of room for error, but the Philadelphia Union in pole position for the Supporters Shield in 2025.
Well, it certainly helps, it certainly helps your chances when you go and you take care of business against a bad team like DC United. So the Philadelphia Union, who had been up and down, right? Had been this back and forth, what kind of team are they?
Well, they lost 7-0 a week or so ago.
They lost 7-0 in Vancouver with a rotated team because they were in the US Open Cup. That was part of it. They go to DC. They beat a bad DC United team that's in transition. We know they hired an agent/novelist as their new GM. DC United was working remotely, and then they have this new head coach. I believe he is he Austrian? He's come in. He had a big issue with his visa. He's finally here, but obviously that's not improving things for DC United. But the Union needed that victory because, again, Miami had it in their hands. Right? Miami was in control of their own destiny. If Miami had won out because of their games in hand on Philadelphia, Miami would be the Supporters Shield winner for the second year in a row. Now, last week we told you that Lionel Messi has basically sewn up the MVP, and I still believe that. But Sean Johnson stood on his head in Toronto, and Inter Miami leaves Canada with 1 point. So that, as you can see on screen now with the Supporters Shield standings, Philadelphia has a 4-point lead on Cincinnati. Cincinnati, who had that loss to Orlando via the or was that a draw? Excuse me. The draw with Orlando via the late goal from Alex Freeman, which was excellently Orlando taking a step forward, I think is very interesting. Not necessarily a Supporter Shield contenders, right? They're not going to be in that mix, but they did get that big draw off the late equalizer from Alex Freeman, and that hurt Cincinnati's chances of Supporter Shield as well. Now, again, look at the numbers in terms of games played. Philadelphia can max out at 69 points. It's a very nice number. They can max out at 69 points. Inter Miami, with 4 games to play and 56 points, can only max out at 68, Rob. 4 times 3 is 12. 56 plus 12 is 68. So if Philadelphia wins both of their games and Miami wins all 4 of theirs, Philadelphia is still the Supporter Shield winner. And I think it's interesting. And we do have our Supporter Shield people. I mean, our Supporter Shield Union people in the chat. Shout out to Mike Thomas. So a Miami tie or loss means the Union can clinch on Saturday. Right. Again, there's mathematics involved here. I'm talking about if they win out, but clearly it can happen sooner than that. But I guess from Mike and any other Union fan, do you want to win this Supporter Shield? Remembering what happened the last time you did, remembering that you still don't have the MLS Cup that you covet, that your record in those finals has not been great, and this could end up as a consolation prize. I mean, you want to win the trophy that's in front of you if you have a chance to win it, Rob. But the Union are a team that have famously not brought home the big prize, and that should be the focus. So, I guess if you can get it done this weekend because Inter Miami drops points, then sure, go win it. But it's not a great record for the Supporter Shield winners in recent history.
Looking at Inter Miami, they come across a playoff hopeful Chicago Fire on Tuesday night. Do you think that Berhalter's boys give them any angst as they try to chase Philadelphia?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, I know Columbus is scuffling, and that win for Chicago maybe isn't as impressive as it might have been a month or two ago. But I do think that the Chicago Fire are playing with confidence, right? They did batter. If you look at the numbers, they did batter Columbus. They deserved to win that game.
Yeah.
You wonder about the minutes that Inter Miami Stars are playing right now, right? Again, we're going fast and furious to the end line here because Inter Miami's schedule got changed because of their Club World Cup performance or participation and some other things that have pushed, and League Cup have pushed their games to the back end of the schedule. So again, with this unbalanced situation, you got to pack all these games in. How does that hurt Inter Miami as they go after a second consecutive Supporter Shield? And again, remember also Inter Miami won the Supporter Shield last year, got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. So it's not for them. I don't even think this is necessarily the thing that they are focused on. But we can expect Messi and Suarez to be on the field. We can expect Busquets, who's retiring at the end of the season, to be on the field.
Yeah, I was going to actually mention that. I don't think we said anything about Busquets noting his retirement at the end of the season. I wonder if Inter Miami will rally and win it for Sergio And I think the question after the show I'm going to put up on the comment or the community section of the Morning Kick Around YouTube channel is, what is the standout? What is the legacy moment going to be for Busquets outside of, roughing up some youngsters in Seattle? What will he be remembered for in Major League Soccer? Obviously, that could still develop if Miami go for a run here, but trying to think of a standout memory for Busquets.
No. But he's not that player, right? Busquets is not the player who wows you.
He's the silent, invisible assassin, right?
He's the guy that does the work behind Messi and Suarez in those players. So
the pass to the goal.
Yeah, he's the pass before the pass that leads to the goal. So you're not going to pick him out and say, well, that performance. You're going to take his whole body of work, and he was a major part of a points record-setting team last season. That's not nothing, Rob. In this league, that's not nothing.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because it is important to remember, and it's interesting how that's been spun as if last year was a disappointment for Inter Miami. We shall see how this plays out. Moving on to long ball number 3 here today on Monday, the 29th. I'm Robert. He's Jason. Looking at the second tier of American Soccer, USL Championship, they are in their playoff push. Just about 4 games to go for most of the teams. And if you look at the top of the table, a very familiar name at the top of the heap, leading all challengers, Louisville City, a 8-point lead over second place Charleston with 4 games to go. Louisville continued to be the cream of the crop there in the USL Championship.
Yeah, I mean, this is they've been consistently good, and while I don't know that parity is as strong an influence on the league in the USL as it is in Major League Soccer. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't some constraints on spending. It's just not as baked into the league's modus operandi.
It's just what the money is available rather than the mechanics of the league, right?
Basically, right. And we're going to talk more about the USL and players and relationships and benefits and all those things a little bit later on the program. But I absolutely am struck, Rob, by just how consistently good Louisville City has been. Now, they only have one players shield, which is what they call their points winner, their points title. It's the player shield in USL. They only have one of those. They do have a couple of USL championships, but those go back far enough that they're almost like they're not in recent memory. I mean, when you're old like us, something that happened in 2018 is like yesterday. But I imagine that for fans of Louisville City, it feels like a long time ago that this team won that trophy. So they're going for the Players' Shield. They're going for a USL championship, which has eluded them recently. But again, in an American sports league of any kind, to be as good as they have consistently been is remarkable. And they did it with they did it, navigating coaching changes and things. I think Danny Cruz just won his 100th game, or what was it? Something like that. Like he won his 100th game for Louisville City. I think I have that right. So looking at this last couple of years, again, last year they finished first overall. They won the Players Shield last year. That was the first one. That's the only one that they have. They have finished first in the East, though, 4 times since 2017. Again, they won the league title in 2017 and 2018 going back to back. It's been semifinal appearances the last couple of years. They're going to win the Players' Shield again. So I just thought, hey, we absolutely should take stock of what Louisville City has done. Most recently, to the chagrin of some people who work on this show, they beat Detroit City FC at Keyworth 1-0. Maybe not the better team on the day in sort of obvious ways, Rob, but enough to get it done on the road against a team that's always going to give you a tough match, even though we sort of wonder where Detroit City is talent-wise.
Yeah, and in our mission and our credo to dot the map, I definitely think that getting Louisville City on our map, connecting with them in a heartier way would be important, because they're the team, like I said, cream of the crop. They are definitely seem like the most serious club in the division. They had the soccer-specific stadium before everyone else. They're oftentimes winning trophies. They got the silverware locked up, and they have a gargantuan lead yet again this year. So definitely for folks that only kind of keep their filter on the top divisions, is well worth noting that Louisville City a major player in American soccer. Looking at the standings, though, you're talking about parity. Looking between the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference USL
Yeah.
Championship, one
No.
is not like the other.
No.
Louisville City, with 4 games to go, sitting on 63 points. Charleston Battery, who we'll talk about a little bit later, 8 points behind, and then it drops off another 15 points to North Carolina in third. But we go across to the Western Conference. Tulsa leading the way with only 47 points. So a lot farther behind, not really being chased for that top spot. The Players' Shield, not really in contention from a Western Conference team. Louisville City with 19 wins. FC Tulsa leading the West with just 13 wins. So it kind of puts an exclamation mark on that dominance. And if you look down to the third place team, New Mexico United, should be noted, and it's been in this live chat, get in the chat if you haven't already, suffered or endured a 4-hour delay to get their win on the weekend, a 2-1 win over Lexington, a marathon match out there in the high desert.
Yeah, in terms of the West, as you said, there's it's not quite at the heights are not hit. Although, I mean, I think it's because of the tightness of it. It is certainly interesting, dramatic, fascinating to see how it will play out at the end. As we had Soccer Night in Detroit say, if Louisville City wins the Players' Shield, which it looks like they are, I'm not sure. I haven't done the math to see how close they are to locking it up. That would be something. But this is a club that has done that before. They did it last year, and they didn't win a championship. And he's saying that it would not be enough. They need to achieve earning the third star. Falling short would be a huge failure. And this is the way we measure American sports teams. It's not by what you do in the regular season, no matter what we compare ourselves to in terms of world football and soccer in other places. You got to win the playoff tournament. You have to win the championship on the field with that one final match. I mean, you think about the Super Bowl. If you go, how many games they play in the NFL now, Rob? Is it 17?
17.
Yeah, let's say you go 10-7, which is a fairly, that's not a great record. That's not like a dominant record. Let's say you go 10-7 and you win the Super Bowl. Nobody goes back and goes, yeah, but they weren't really good. Look, they were only 10-7. They couldn't have been that good. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you win that Super Bowl and you lift that trophy. So that's where we are with Louisville City. I think at this point, I do think it's also interesting. You mentioned the stadium. Getting that place built was a watershed moment in American soccer. Like, it was a massive deal that a second division soccer team with no real belief that they were going to go up to Major League Soccer or be added to the MLS ranks decided to build their own building, a home that they could call their own for however long they need to be in that building. Now, we're waiting to see what USL is going to do with Pro Rel, First Division, all those things. Louisville City is absolutely going to be in that mix for the First Division. And once they're there, are they going to be as dominant as they've been to this point?
We shall see how that plays out. And will they achieve those heights once again? We'll see about that. You were talking about the regular season versus the postseason. The analogy is like the New York Giants versus the Colts back in the day. Like Eli Manning, they had some pretty, just above average, but they knocked New England off their perch.
You said
Colts off their porch.
Okay.
Old Giants. Right. So maybe you're talking about. Maybe I'm dating myself a bit too much. That's about 15 years ago.
No. You said Colts.
Season,
I think Patriots first, but yeah, that's exactly the reference. I mean, look, wild card teams have won the Super Bowl. This is not the same thing, right? Louisville is a very good regular season team. So I don't know that there's anybody that's okay. What I was going to say is that we've seen this in MLS too. You do need to finish near the top of the standings to go win the MLS Cup title, but you don't have to finish first. You probably don't have to finish second. You can maybe finish fourth. So that's what Louisville has to guard against: being the best team over the course of the regular season, best record, best goal difference, consistently winning, but going to the playoffs and lay an egg or fall flat or miss that opportunity to win the league title.
That brings us to the halfway mark of Monday's live edition of Morning Kickaround. If you're tuned in, if you haven't subscribed yet, do so now. Hit the button. Helps us out tremendously. Doesn't cost you a darn thing. If you got a couple dollarooskies in your pocket you want to throw our way, $3.99 a month, but gets you a membership. Become an MK Ultra. Early access to videos prior to coming to these live videos and bonus content and a great Morning Kickaround Discord server, which is kind of started, like the conversation is flowing so much that's kind of programming a lot of the show these days.
Yeah, it's a great stuff. There's some great stuff over there. I think we need someone to log some of Robisms. They always catch. Last week we got what did we get?
A Ned Flanders by
a Ned
accident.
Flanders. What was it?
Ned Flanders.
Oakley Dokley. Is that what we got? We got an Oakley Dokley today. Dalaruski's is not one I'm just not used to that, Rob. I'm sorry. It's not people don't say that around me very often. So here we go.
It's all part of this cross-continental fun we have going here on Morning Kickaround. Dotting the map with local colloquialisms, or at least individual quirks at the very most. But
I like it.
We are halfway there. Let's get into some deeper topics. Let's hit up today's hot topic here on Morning Kickaround. This is the hot topic here on Morning Kickaround. I'm Robert. He's Jason, and we're both very excited. And I think the American soccer landscape is excited in general about the ambitious plans for D1 and Pro Rel for USL. But there is something that they haven't necessarily taken care of yet, and that seems to be negotiations with their players' union. And a statement came out last week listing some demands and saying that they've been trying to bargain for over a year, haven't seen any movement. The agreement's set to expire at the end of the season, and they're getting so far as to encourage fans to block their own league on social media.
I'd like to read a little bit from this bargaining update post. So the block, the USL Championship thing is the second page of this. This was posted social media by the USL players. So just for the benefit, because we do have people who listen on a podcast, for over a year, USL Championship players have been engaged in collective bargaining with the league and its clubs. The players' goal is simple: to secure the baseline standards which every professional athlete deserves. For example, unlike other professional leagues, the USL has no mandate for employer-provided health insurance.
That's the sicker.
With the current agreement set to expire, the lack of progress at the bargaining table is disappointing and frustrating. Players are frustrated because professional soccer cannot succeed without professional standards. Safe working conditions, fair pay, and employer-provided health care are not optional. They are fundamental to player welfare, the credibility of the league, and increased fan interest and engagement. Until the league and the clubs take these concerns seriously, championship players will continue to make their frustrations visible. The players block the league on social media and invite you to support them by blocking the league too. Stand up for the players and the continued growth of the sport. Block at USL Championship. And there you can see the second screen, which is literally arrows pointing to how you block somebody on Instagram, Rob.
I gotta say, it's a little that it is kind of humorous, and I don't think I've seen this as a negotiating tactic before. But you gotta say, that's the fact that the call to action is to block the league. That seems like there's not a lot of leverage if that is the call to action to kind of, harm or send a message or anything like that. Because I mean, okay, so they see a couple hundred, maybe thousands potentially of people, not responding or interacting with their messaging, but that's not like a huge weighty leverage tool at this point, right?
Look,
I mean, maybe that's not that point. It's not, getting a strike or work outage or anything there yet, but I guess it's a small way to show discontent, right?
Okay, but it's you're right. You're absolutely right, Rob. That this is not even close to brinksmanship. This is not even close to like we're walking off the job. And here's the problem, and this has been a problem in Major League Soccer for the entire existence of that league. And the first collective bargaining agreement in MLS happened, I think, in the early 2000s. We didn't get free agency in that league until the 2010s, the early 2010s, and it was a very restricted version of free agency. That league has taken big steps forward, but in every case, you recognized the players have very little leverage. And part of that is because of the global marketplace of soccer. So this is why the players in Major League Soccer lost their lawsuit over single entity, Frazier v. MLS, in the early days of the league, because the judge basically said, you don't have to stay in MLS. There are soccer leagues everywhere. Go play professional soccer somewhere else. Your arguments fall flat because of that. And because of that as well, again, here, the players don't have a lot of leverage. The league can say, we'll go replace you. We don't think that this is a league that turns on star players. This is the interesting part of being a second division soccer league in America. Rob, there may be very talented players in the USL, and we're watching Milan Ilowski make a difference for the Philadelphia Union after what he did for San Diego, and he comes out of the USL, and that is an advertisement for the talent that is available in the USL. And we've seen some players get sold out of the USL, and Diego Luna played in the USL. Like, there are things happening there, but this is not a league where it's like star players rule the day. There's no Son in USL. There's no Lionel Messi in USL. There are excellent players who deserve recognitions for what they do, but people can obviously make that connection and go, well, if they were better, they wouldn't be playing in the USL Championship. They'd be playing in Major League Soccer. They'd be playing in a bigger league somewhere else. So the players have very little leverage over this because, again, maybe some of them could go find jobs, but who can handle, when you make the kind of money USL Championship players do, who can handle just not working? I don't think the USL players have some big strike fund that they're sitting on, waiting to call the strike so that they can get what they want. This requires good faith on both sides. And I think it's a bad look for USL that the players don't have employer-mandated health insurance. It's certainly a bad look that they have engaged in negotiations for a year and gotten nowhere. Right? Without knowing what the actual demands are on both sides, it's hard to really kind of take a side. But generally speaking, I'm going to look at management and go, what are you doing here? Right? If this is trying to exploit the players, as we watch them line up investment behind their plan to go D1 and Pro Rel, as Bell Tower steps in, as we talk about corporate money, private equity, all these things coming into USL. They've got 70 cities they're talking about building soccer stadiums in. They're expanding like gangbusters. You know, that's filling up our shows, how big they're growing, how fast they're doing it. And here the players are, we can't get health insurance? What the hell? What's going on there?
Yeah, and to the comment, like, injuries happen all the time, any sort of athletic endeavor, but how many games have you been to where there's a serious injury? And I don't know if I've ever been to a game where at least someone doesn't, go down for an extended period of time, just maybe a knock or this, that, or the otherwise, but serious injuries happen all the time. And maybe the cost of insuring, a whole squad of players is
But that's
a
the thing.
huge financial undertaking.
But here's the thing. Okay, we have been talking about this recently, and you may even have seen a short on YouTube from me talking about club failure, right? And how I don't like club failure. And club failure is a scourge on American soccer. And I am surrounded in this room I sit in by dead soccer club memorabilia because so many clubs have come and gone.
You might need to shake all that off. Move into the new year, shake off the dead clubs.
I mean, I've been meaning to give some stuff away, and if you're in the Discord, you can hit me up in soccer in the swap meet, and I will put your name on a list, and I will eventually get you some of my gear if you want it. But my point is, I don't want soccer clubs to die. I've asked that soccer clubs that when they launch, when people go into these endeavors, that they have a plan or at least a sense, okay, how do we make this work? Now, the problem is that running a soccer club is certainly in the beginning, it's not a money-making operation. It is not even a break-even operation. It is a money-losing operation. So if you know you're going to be losing money, you're not going to be willing to go out and spend a bunch of money on look, you're going to be careful, right? And unfortunately, and I mean this in like, it is a tragedy, it is a travesty, it is a shame. Management often sees things like A, labor costs, and B, benefits to labor as ways to cut money, as ways to save, as ways to prevent the red ink from being darker than it already is. So that seems to be the problem here that we're having, that USL is making all this noise about growing and becoming this big player in American soccer, and we're putting all these teams into all these markets, and we're bringing in all this private money, and we're getting bigger and stronger, and yet they're not willing to do the thing that is mandate that their clubs take care of their labor, because without their labor, there is no league, because I'm sure in their minds, we can just go replace these players. They're second division players.
Yeah, that's a pretty brutal way, if that is really in their mindset. Maybe they don't verbalize that, but they could be thinking that in the back of their head. But that's a brutal way to think about your labor and your product at the end of the day. what we all have fun, the culture around it and the community of it, but ultimately we are there to see the players, see the teams, see the performances on the field. And if those go away, then what really is there? What you got on the screen here?
So this is, again, Marcus is pointing out that we're not talking about nobody has insurance. That's not what this is, right? It's not that they don't have a health insurance. It's that the league doesn't mandate it, which means bigger clubs can afford it. And often, I'm sure bigger clubs are willing to do this. And again, it's sort of that, do we have enough of a group to go to the insurance companies and bargain for good rates versus smaller clubs which do not? Right. And again, this is where, not saying that USL should be single entity. Club independence is an important part of the growth of the USL. But this is where MLS actually has an advantage, right? Because we're a single entity. We're one big company. We can go and bargain for our insurance in a way that makes economic sense for our company. And the USL doesn't operate that way, right? This, again, and those details in how this is a company which has franchised out these clubs, but those clubs are individual businesses unto themselves. They're not USL properties. Does that make sense? It's more like the NFL, where they operate as one unit, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're by themselves. And for legal purposes, it makes all of this a little bit more complicated. I'm not going to pretend to have a deep understanding of it, Rob, certainly from a CBA perspective. But I imagine negotiating the CBA for the USL players is different than it would be for Major League Soccer's players, because of that difference in how the leagues are organized.
And we're certainly going to dig deeper on this topic, but I am curious to know what the percentage is of players that are currently being covered. You're saying some of these teams, they might have the coverage within their team. Some players might have it on their own, but what percentage of players are out there hitting the field for their team, going for wins, points, goals, competing as hard as they can? Professional players, they often, don't think about their bodies and preserving their bodies the same way as we do in their day-to-day life. They use their body as a tool. And how many of these laborers are going to their job without insurance of any kind, knowing that one tackle or one challenge could, blow out their leg, break their leg? I mean, we have a commenter in here saying $10K just for rehab, let alone all the other things, and in lost wages, because I'm sure there's not a lot of guarantees in their contracts either of how long as an injured player continue to get paid.
When Riverside Grove is saying league can have league requirements for every team in the league, it's not that different than MLS. By the way, your commitment to the dollar sign on MLS Riverside Grove is admirable. I'll say that.
100% hit rate.
He's 100% on the dollar sign for MLS. Again, this is not to say that the league cannot mandate that its clubs provide health insurance. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are individual businesses here operating under the umbrella of USL, and USL is going to say everybody has to do the exact same thing. And a club like Louisville is like, yeah, sure, no problem. And a club like Monterey Bay or whoever is going to be like, how much? So again, I don't know. Again, there needs to be some sort of collective element here. Why the league is holding out on this, I don't know. And it's just one issue mentioned. Now, they also mentioned fair pay, and that's always on the table, how much the players are making. And I'm not even taking a side necessarily, because at this point, what is a problem at this level too is that we have a distinct lack of reporting on all these things. Now, we've reached out. Neither of us is on the USL beat day in and day out. Right. So it sounds like I'm making an excuse. Well, Jason, why don't you go report it? We are trying to do things in that area. It's just not our beat. Right. So it becomes, and we don't have a lot, like, as much as I can say, oh, I'm on the radio, or I have this many years of writing about soccer. I don't have an outlet I'm reporting this on. And again, the league may not be forthcoming with this information. So this is about developing sources, and those things just don't exist in USL right now. There aren't. Occasionally you'll hear something. I know Carter Krishnaier is reporting things that he says he's heard. I don't know where he is on this deal, and we can check. And I'm not saying anybody's failed here. We just are looking for information that may not be available, Rob.
And for context, there's only been one CBA so far for the USLPA. They only were able to unionize in 2018, got their CBA in like 2021. And so this is the expiration of their very first combined bargaining agreement. And I would also say this is also huge, this whole minimum standards of increasing fair wages and insurance. This is huge in the fact of like, will USL become an attractive alternative for players that are going to college or players that have gone to college, are good enough to become professionals, but are considering a life in the professional sports realm or in another pursuit in business or whatever, because we lose a lot of talent to people going to places for more money outside of domestic sports.
Yeah, and this is a league that is much more tied to the American player than MLS is at this point in its history, right? And not to make direct comparisons, but Major League Soccer was heavily American in its earliest days. All of its new talent came out of the college ranks, which was almost uniformly American at that point in history.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was some exceptions. That obviously changed as more money came into the league, because if you're looking for the best players, you're not going to look just inside the United States. The United States doesn't produce enough high-level players for MLS to reach the levels it wants. So then you're looking outside. And the USL is in that range of, okay, how much money do we have to spend? Can we go recruit players from Argentina and from Germany? In some cases, you might be able to, but in some cases you can't. And so you are looking internally, and obviously the college system is very international at this point, Rob. So there is something
every year.
More and more every year. But just to see like how this can be and should be a place for the American player in a way that maybe Major League Soccer isn't anymore. How is that going to impact your attractiveness? And the MLS, not that they're directly competing in sort of, I don't know how to say this. There is competition here. They'll say, USL will say we're not competing directly with MLS with this new move to D1 and ProRel, but clearly in terms of player recruitment, you are competing on some level, right? When you have MLS has catchment areas, USL does not. So you can go sign for any USL team you want if you're a young player, and many have, because they see it as a better pathway to get where they want to go than what MLS does when it locks them in to their unique system. So that's a selling point for USL that you undercut if you don't have a CBA that actually treats the players fairly.
We shall see how this all plays out as we're trying to get some guests on and dig in more to see what the state of negotiations are between USL and the Players Union. If you are watching this, haven't subscribed yet, hit the button to take it a step farther, become a member, or just tell your fans, friends, and family about your favorite new show, Morning Kickaround. And I want to say, benchmark coming up on 500,000 views for the channel. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and tune in a little bit longer today as we have one more segment here on Monday. Let's dig into yet another installment of Soccer Under Construction here on Morning Kickaround. Soccer Under Construction here on Morning Kickaround, a segment that comes up, I think, just about every episode now. For context, I'm Robert. He's Jason. Stadium construction and plans are widespread across the country, but a group of former NFL quarterbacks could become one of the new lords of American soccer. They already are building a stadium in Jacksonville. But Blake Bortles, Tim Tebow, John Elway, and the CEO of Chick-fil-A moving their stadium building eyes towards Charleston.
Yeah, this is the story from the Post and Courier out of Charleston, South Carolina. That this is about Charleston, and but it paints this picture of what these guys are doing. Now, again, we covered this because of Jacksonville, and we talked about John Elway and Tim Tebow. We knew Tim Tebow was going to be part, or is part, of the Jacksonville ownership group Rob, but we didn't. I don't think we had this sense that there was another entity, another vehicle for investment in soccer that he was part of. And again, here with Elway and Blake Bortles, where did
He's
Blake
former
Bortles play?
Jacksonville. He beat
That's what I thought.
his highlight was beating Pittsburgh in the playoffs.
Okay.
5 years ago.
So they have launched what is called Momentous Sports. This is in partnership, as you mentioned, with the CEO of Chick-fil-A, Andrew Cathy. Can I just ask Andrew to keep your places open on Sunday? Thank you very much. They have joined up with his private real estate firm, Four Stones, and Magnolia Hill Partners, an Orlando-based real estate investment firm. Okay, so look, we've got money here. We got investment firms, private equities coming in, real estate coming in, and this only underpins what we've been talking about, that when Justin Papadakis goes public with we're talking to 70 cities, when he talks about the expansion of the USL, when we talk about the 7 teams coming into USL League One, and I don't know, the 6 teams or 5 teams or 4 teams set to launch in USL Championship with 3 or 4 more coming, we're talking about real estate investment. That's what this is, Rob. This is about real estate investment. The quote here from John Elway: owning a team is great. Owning the land underneath it, even better. Momentous has a real strategy that combines both, and that is what drew me in. I have been around a lot of teams, buildings, and deals. Momentous is not just another sports investment platform. It's built by competitors for competitors. And I know that when we talked about Bell Tower last week, we had at least one comment on the channel that was like, uh-oh, okay, here comes private equity, here comes corporate money. This isn't a good thing. Like, we shouldn't paint this as some sort of positive development for American soccer. Now, as I was saying last week, and as I maintain, and as I wrote on my newsletter last week, Jason Davis Soccer Eagle, I'm in an abundance mindset when it comes to American soccer clubs. We just got to start throwing clubs out there to see what happens. We got to reach critical mass on clubs, and we got to start building stadiums so that clubs can become permanent fixtures in their communities. The problem then is, of course, how does that happen? And can it happen without things like private real estate firms and private equity and this kind of money, Rob? Like, that is a big question around this effort that USL is now engaged in, which has attracted Momentous Sports, backed by some former quarterbacks and the CEO of Chick-fil-A.
Kind of funny. The first generation of MLS owned by NFL ownership, and then maybe this second generation of former players coming into the real estate game themselves at a different level. I got a question from the chat asking if this is attached to the Battery. The article references the Battery, but it doesn't necessarily saying they're working together. I think it's a little early because this news is this Momentous group is trying to buy the land to build a stadium in Charleston. Marley Hughes, CEO of the partnership, told this newspaper, Post and Courier, it can't publicly comment on the exact project, but he can confirm that Momentous is in discussions around a potential catalytic opportunity in Charleston. Charleston is one of my favorite cities in the world, and it would be an honor to bring the project here that delivers both community benefit and lasting impact.
Okay, I hope it involves the Battery, because it should involve the Battery, because the Battery are Charleston's soccer team. Let's just be very clear about that. I would also like to give Marley Hughes, who I don't know, a piece of advice. When you give quotes that you expect might be read by soccer fans, don't say things like potential catalytic opportunity, right? Because again, that immediately leads us to being extremely skeptical about the motivations here. And even if you say we care about the soccer, when it's about the money and it's about the real estate, there's reason for us to be worried about this, right? From the heart and soul perspective of soccer fans. Now, I wanted to also because I wanted to give people a sense of this. I want to give you a look at their website. This is Momentous Sports website. Now, that nothing dramatically weird. I mean, I don't know if this is real footage. We've got what is this? That's Wembley, right? We're just taking, isn't that Wembley, or is that some other?
It's definitely taking cues from Wembley if it's not it itself. It definitely American.
I don't know all the stadiums by sight, so my apologies. Now, here we have what looks to be a soccer stadium. What soccer stadium is this? What is that? This is Sporting Clubs Jacksonville. So this is a rendering on their front page of the Sporting Club Jacksonville stadium that they are backing, intending to build in Jacksonville. Now, I should also mention, in addition to Charleston, Omaha, Nebraska gets mentioned in this article as well. Now, obviously, Omaha has their own team in USL League One. They've been hoping to build a stadium for a while. If you go read the Reddit comments on this news about Elway and Bortles and Tebow, people are saying that Union Omaha should be playing in a different stadium, and they just don't have the relationships in Omaha to make it work the right way, and that their minor league baseball situation is not good. Obviously, that's part of the problem here is we have these clubs that can have success on the field, can entrench themselves in the community, but they really need their own buildings. A new asset class. Oh, man, here we go. A new asset class.
Oh, boy.
Rob, a new approach. Now, should we throw the baby out with the bathwater here? Like, should we reject this? Because this is obviously this website is aimed at investors, which you and I are not. I don't have the kind of cash to throw at building a soccer stadium.
Are you saying soccer people aren't just like engorged by the thought of a catalytic opportunity?
Did you say engorged? I don't know what that means in this. I'm certainly not feeling engorged at the moment.
It's a little early for that.
Let me read this because I think it's important to get the tone of this. And again, catalytic opportunity. Most investors focus on either the team or the real estate. Now, do you think that that's true right now? That there are some investors who care about the team and some investors who care about the real estate and whatever, the team just comes along for the ride. Do you think that's true, Rob?
I think it's an individual case-by-case basis, like our conversation with Boise a couple weeks ago. It definitely seems like there was a team, a club, and a community that are building a stadium, and there's some places where they're building a stadium and trying to build a club around it, for sure.
Okay. Most investors focus on either the team or the real estate. We saw what others overlooked, the untapped value in pairing both. Nobody saw that before, Rob. They're the first ones to see it.
Not a single.
That's why we built Momentous, a platform uniting ownership, real estate development, and operational strategy under one roof. We target thriving communities with strong fan passion but underdeveloped sports infrastructure, unlocking exponential potential through the smart capital and thoughtful placemaking.
So first part of that, I do agree with that. It is underserved, and there's a whole lot more we could be doing with soccer in America. But that's
again,
part of that is investor corporate mumbo jumbo.
And I said this again in the newsletter. I'll keep referencing. There is do we want to see the sausage get made? Or do we just want the sausage?
I think we're peeking in the door of the sausage factory right now.
But is that a thing we should be doing as fans? Do we need to be looking too closely at the sausage making process? Right. And again, we had a back and forth on Detroit because we identified Detroit City as going after $88 million in tax breaks, other things. Now, some people took that immediately as, what the hell? They said this was privately funded. Why are they going for these breaks? And if you go read our comments, because we have people who are knowledgeable and pay attention, somebody said, well, wait a second. This is for the parking structure. This is for some of the other things that they are building that is not the stadium. The stadium is funded by Detroit City FC. There are other things that they are being asked to build as infrastructure around. And when we talked to Sean Mann, he mentioned that they had to build a parking lot or a parking structure for cars that will be there for people attending the games. And that requires, and for them, that is an extra cost. That's not the stadium. Why wouldn't they go after the tax break? But some people see that, Rob, and go, that's them taking advantage of the community. So is it one or is it the other? Or is it somewhere in between?
I think it's got to be both. I think it's one of those things about growing up life that you have to come to grips with it. It's both, really. And I think in our original conversation with it would be a little bit of a malpractice if those levers are available to get those benefits for large projects and to no thanks. I think I'll just spend $88 million more than I may have had to, could be like business malpractice. While I don't agree with money that could have gone to schools or infrastructure, any of the other things that cities need. But if it's money it's not physically being taken out, that's one thing, but it's definitely murky. It's definitely big projects require some things that aren't so pretty, along with the benefits that are fun.
Again, this kind of requires, and maybe we can reach out to Momentous Sports. Maybe they'll put somebody on the air with us to talk about what they're doing, right? But again, I feel like this is a bargain that we're having to make. And I would love to know from our viewers and from soccer fans, particularly in smaller soccer cities, not Major League Soccer towns, but smaller soccer cities, what you make of this. Would you want Momentous Sports coming into your town to finance, to back, to invest in a stadium for your team if it means that your relationship might be a little different with the club? Right. And how this happens, right? If a bunch of wealthy people want to put money into your team and build a stadium, most people will be like, okay, fine, whatever. That's great. Let's build the stadium. And if you don't care about how it happens, then you go on with life. You support your team. You show up in the stadium. It's beautiful. It's for soccer when we didn't have that before. But there will be people who say, wait a second, hold on. Is this really what we want our club to be? Right? Do we want this to be a club that is beholden to these interests? In this part of their website, and this is the how we do it, they mention the Atlanta Braves transformation into one of Major League Baseball's most valuable franchises. And they say this isn't just about on-field success, but strategic real estate development. They opened Truist Park. Remember, the Braves moved from Atlanta or somewhere Atlanta downtown adjacent to the boonies, in effect. I mean, they moved to the suburbs, right? Now, that changes the character of the Atlanta Braves. And we've got soccer teams that do not have the history of the Atlanta Braves. And you're going to say, well, let's do this thing that's going to benefit us as investors. But is that really going to be the right thing for the fans and the existing fans, Rob? Because maybe we go build a stadium and we get 10,000 new fans to show up every week. But what about the people that were there from the beginning if you leave them behind because you've now changed the character of your club?
I think Detroit City, I hate to harp on them, but I think that's a great case study from a team going up the ranks from amateur to the lower reaches of professionalism to the second division, going from a high school stadium to a different kind of defunct rehabbed old stadium, and now, trying to level up to a brand new shiny soccer stadium. They are going through that right now. There was a kind of a fan, I don't know if protest, but some sort, they were withholding some elements of their support for a time being until they could get a face-to-face with club leadership for this reason. The originals didn't want to be left behind. And I've seen a couple comments to this section is the alternative to welcoming in private equity or a large stadium move is the alternative is no soccer. I think most of us would go for the soccer, right? I mean, selfishly. And then so I love Keyworth Stadium. It is probably worth everyone that likes soccer and just live sports in general is a unique sporting experience that, you can't really get anywhere else. But I have to say, selfishly, when I have made some trips to Columbus and have got to experience games in their brand new shiny stadium, I got to say it would be awesome to have that in our backyard as well.
Yeah. The phrase that comes to mind is you can't let, perfect be the enemy of good, right? Or something like I'm paraphrasing that a little bit. Like there is no perfect way, especially in 2025 in the modern era of sports and the way it operates and how it's been monetized and how we as fans are mostly ATMs through which interests extract money. There is no perfect way for us to get things like a pretty new soccer stadium. It just doesn't. There's no way. I mean, even Detroit City is being beset by these criticisms of how they're going about building their soccer stadium.
Arguably one of the most fan-centric clubs.
Absolutely. The model of American soccer club growth. Detroit City FC. 5 guys get together, launch an amateur club, play a short season, go from a high school stadium to a different one. They crowdfund rehabilitating that stadium. They create a unique fan culture. They foster a unique fan culture that their fans create. They lean into this identity. All these things happen. They eventually get a chance to go pro. They wind their way through various pro leagues to find the place that makes sense for them. And now here they are on the verge of breaking ground on a brand new 15,000 seat soccer stadium. You're like, what a story. But again, if you're a fan of Detroit City from day one, is this the same team that you started supporting at Cass Tech or at Keyworth?
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, it's within the city limits and it's in a great neighborhood that could potentially add a significant amount of fans to the mix because of the location that they are choosing. But as I seem to always say, we shall see how this all plays out. That about does it for this conversation for now, but keep it going in the comments. There's been some great comments just like in the Morning Kickaround Discord server, but on the videos themselves. The contributions from the Morning Kickaround community have been fantastic. And because I really want to, I'm going to read the new members that have added this week. Matt Rice, Pablo the Zolo, Josh Nolan, Jacob Olenek, Jason Hoover, Bo Dewar, and Chris Cordell. Thank you all for joining in. And if we get a last second one, I'll add your name to that list here.
Oh, okay. You got a couple of minutes before we shut up shop. And what Rob will mention you. I just want to ask everybody if you could share something from the show, like whether it's one of the clipped segments when they go up on the YouTube channel, which usually happens within a day or two of the show. Maybe it's a short. We are trying to get those out there. We're trying to improve our reach on things like Instagram and TikTok. If you see something or you heard something today that you thought was interesting, please just share it. Post it somewhere, send it to a friend. Soccer people sharing soccer things is what's going to help Morning Kickaround continue to grow.
And we are approaching a year as a channel. I think our first videos came out in November, but our channel started. We just got our 1 year anniversary of the channel being a real thing, and we're creeping up on probably by the end of the week, we'll hit 500,000 views. And you guys, we could get from 500,000 to 1 million in much shorter of a time, I'm sure.
Yeah, let's go exponential. Let's go faster. Let's speed this thing up, right? Let's continue. Let's grow. More ultras, more soccer.
All right. Do we have anything to note before we get out of here for the day? Was that about all the bases covered?
No, I think that's it. Again, thank you very much for supporting us and for watching. And if you've got stories that you want us to cover, you hit us up on the YouTube channel. You can find us obviously in the Discord. If you're an ultra, let us know. Find me on Blue Sky at davisjason.bsky. Whatever it is. Just look for Davis Jason and you'll find me. If you tell me you want to talk about something, I'm probably going to talk about it.
Yeah, at mkickaround on all the social media platforms. morningkickaround@gmail.com is the way to get a hold of us via email, or just hit us up in the comments. Become a member. Morning Kickaround Discord server is a great place to chat and get a little more in depth on various topics from local soccer, pro rel, MLS, USL, and much, much more. And we'll be back for another live episode of Morning Kickaround on Wednesday. But until then, everybody, enjoy your soccer.